Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel RJK Tutorials. So today I'm going to take a session on regression analysis. So regression is a particular chapter in statistics which comes after the correlation. So in correlation, we'll try to find out the what type of or what degree of relationship is there between the two variables x and y, whether the values in the variables x and y are moving in the same direction or in the opposite direction. So in other words, we'll try to find out whether there is a positive relationship or whether there is a negative relationship in the x and y variables. So finding this relationship is actually known as correlation. But in case of regression analysis, we'll try to find out the value of unknown variable using the value of known variable. Suppose if I have the value of x, I can find out the value of y. Similarly, if I have the value of y, I can find out the value of x. So finding the unknown thing through a known thing is actually known as regression analysis. So that is what you're going to study today. Now, what do you mean by regression? So, regression or regression analysis measures the nature and extent of relationship between two or more variables. So, thus enables us to make predictions. So, it tries to analyze the extent of relationship, to what extent the relationship is there, so that we try to find out in the regression. In correlation, we'll try to find out whether there is a relationship is there or not, but to what extent this relationship is existing in the variables. So that is what we try to find out in the regression analysis. So regression is the measure of the average relationship between two or more variables. So the next one is utility of regression. To what extent or where exactly we're going to use this regression. So regression measures the degree and nature of relationship. It helps in estimation of a relationship. It helps in prediction, and it is very much useful in economic and business research. So what is the main difference between correlation and regression? So when it comes to the degree and nature of relationship, correlation is a measure of degree of relationship between the x and y. So it measures the degree of relationship. In regression studies, the nature of relationship between the variables x and y is established or found out, so that one may be able to predict the value of one variable on the basis of the other variable. So as I explained earlier, in regression, we'll try to find out the value of unknown variable through the known variable. So that is the difference between the correlation and regression. So second one, based on the cause and effect relationship. So correlation does not always assume cause and effect relationship between the two variables, whereas in case of regression clearly expresses the cause and effect relationship between two variables. So the independent variable is the cause and dependent variable is the effect. So that is what we try to find out in regression. So when it comes to prediction, correlation does not help in making prediction because it merely establishes the relationship. So prediction is not possible in correlation. In case of regression, it enables us to make predictions using what is known as regression line. It is similar to the linear equation. So what we have studied in the high school, that is y is equal to mx plus c. We'll try to find out the value of y based upon the x by using this linear relationship. So the same thing is done in case of regression analysis. So next one is based upon symmetric. Now correlation coefficients. So we have a correlation coefficient that is rxy or ryx. This is called correlation coefficient. Whether you're trying to find out the correlation coefficient between x and y or y on x, both are one and the same. But in case of regression coefficients, they're not symmetrical, they're not similar. That is, bxy is not always equal to byx. That is regression coefficient of x on y as well as the regression coefficient of y on x is not equal. And next one is based on origin and scale. Correlation is independent of the change of origin and scale, whereas regression coefficient is independent of change of origin but not the scale. So what are the different types of regression analysis? We have three types of regression analysis: simple and multiple regression, linear and non-linear regression, partial and total regression. So simple linear regression, there are three types of them. One is regression lines, regression equations, and regression coefficients. So in simple linear regression, we can study the concepts of regression lines, regression equations, and regression coefficients. So what are the different methods are there for studying the regression? Basically, there are two methods: graphical method as well as the algebraic method. So the graphical method is called as freehand curve method or least square method. So freehand curve method or least square method. In case of algebraic method, we have least square method. We have a deviation method from arithmetic mean, that is taking the deviation from arithmetic mean, and deviation taken from the assumed mean. So in algebraic method, least square method, deviation from actual mean, deviation from the assumed mean. So these three methods, so I'll be explaining today. So in regression, we'll try to find out what is called as regression lines. So what are regression lines? So regression line shows the average relationship between two variables, that is between x and y. It is also called as the line of best fit. So regression lines are also known as line of best fit. If two variables x and y are given, then there are two regression equations or lines. One is called regression line of x on y, and other one is regression line of y on x. Now coming to the nature of regression lines, if r is equal to plus or minus 1, then two regression lines are coincident. If r is equal to 0, then two regression lines intersect each other at 90 degree. So this is the nature of relationship. The third one is the nearer the regression lines to each other, the greater will be the degree of correlation. That means if the two regression lines are coming near and near, that means the degree of correlation between the variables will be greater. If the regression lines rise from left to right upward, then correlation is positive. The next one is regression equations. So regression equations are algebraic formulas of the regression lines. So there are two regression equations. So one will be y on x, other one will be x on y. So y on x is given by the general regression equation: y is equal to a plus bx. So x is called independent variable, y is called dependent variable, a is a constant, b is called as coefficient of x. Similarly, if you're taking the assumed mean, then we have y minus y bar is equal to byx into x minus x bar. Here byx is called as regression coefficient of y on x. Similarly, there is one more formula by using the standard deviation and the correlation coefficient, that is y minus y bar is equal to r. R is called as correlation coefficient into sigma y divided by sigma x. That is called standard deviation of y on x, standard deviation of x on y. So we have to divide this into x minus x bar. So these three equations are the most important equations. So whenever any problem to be solved in regression, any of this method can be used here. Similarly, on x on y, we have x is equal to a plus by, x minus x bar is equal to bxy into y minus y bar. So bxy is called regression coefficient of x on y. Similarly, x minus x bar is equal to r into sigma x divided by sigma y. So this is called correlation coefficient of r, that is correlation, into sigma x, that is the standard deviation of x on y. Then we have standard deviation of y on x into y minus y bar. So these are the two sets of formulas that you have to remember for finding the regression equation of y on x and x on y. Then assumptions of regression analysis. So there exists an actual linear relationship. Always we'll remember that. So we'll be assuming that a linear relationship between x on y. So the regression analysis is used to estimate the values within the range for which is valid. And the relationship between the independent dependent variable remains the same till the regression equation is calculated. So we are assuming that one. And the fifth one is, I'm sorry, the fourth one is the dependent variables takes any random values, but the values of independent variables are always fixed because you are being independent variable value, and based on that dependent variable value you are getting it. And the last one is in regression, we have only one dependent variable because always there is one independent variable and one dependent variable. So in regression, we have only one dependent variable in our estimating equation. However, we can use more than one independent variable. But suppose if you are using multiple independent variable, but dependent variable will be only one. So this is what we are assuming. Then we have regression coefficients. So regression coefficients are nothing but byx and bxy. So what is the relationship between the byx and bxy? So the regression coefficient measures the average change in the value of one variable for a unit change in the value of another variable. That means what is the overall percentage change or the average change in the value of one variable, that is x variable or y variable, in comparison to the other variable. So that is what we'll try to find out in regression coefficient. So this represents the slope of the regression lines. So when you use the graphical method, so we'll be calculating the slope. I'm sorry. So based upon the slope, we can tell the average variation of the values in x on y or y on x. So there are two regression coefficients. So this is most important thing. So there will be two regression coefficient, whereas correlation coefficient is only or. In regression coefficient, we have two types of regression coefficient. So what are there? So first one is byx and bxy. So you can see here byx and bxy. Byx is equal to r into sigma y divided by sigma x, and bxy is equal to r into sigma x divided by sigma y. So what are the properties of regression coefficients? So coefficient of correlation is the geometric mean of regression coefficients. So that means correlation coefficient is nothing but the square root of byx into bxy. So this is the relation between r and regression coefficients. So both the regression coefficient must have the same algebraic sign. That means both should have the same sign, that is positive sign. So coefficient correlation must have the same sign as the regression coefficient. So this is also similar in case of coefficient of correlation. So both the both the regression coefficients cannot be greater than unity. That means if you take the coefficient of correlation between the regression equations, then it cannot have a value greater than 1. In similar, in case of correlation coefficient, you know that R value should lie between maximum of +1 and least of -1. So arithmetic mean of two regression coefficient is equal to or greater than the correlation coefficient. So this is another relationship, that is bxy plus byx divided by 2 always will be greater than or equal to r. So regression coefficient is independent of change of origin but not the scale. So these are the properties of regression coefficient. So obtaining regression equations. So there are two methods are there, using normal equations using the regression coefficients. So using normal equation is most easiest one. Regression coefficients, so we will be estimating by using byx and bxy values. So regression equations in individual series using normal equations. Now this method is called as method of least square method or method of least square. So in this we'll be first we'll be trying to find out the value of x and try to find out the value of y based upon the x here. So suppose if you have a regression equation of y on x, then the general form of the regression equations will be like this: y is equal to a plus bx. Then here we have to substitute these values. What are those values we have to substitute? That is sigma y is equal to na plus b sigma x. So n is the the number here, the count of the values. So that is called n. And similarly, we have sigma xy is equal to a sigma x plus b sigma x square. So the another method of finding this one is byx is equal to n sigma xy minus uh, sigma x into sigma y divided by n sigma x square minus of sigma x whole square. So that also you can find out. Or if I want to find out a, so I can find out a is equal to y bar minus b bx bar. So that also you can use it actually. So I'm going to explain this with an example so that you can understand the concept in a better way. So there are different methods of finding the regression equations using the regression coefficient. One by using the actual values, that is actual values of x and y. The second one is a deviation from the actual mean. The third one is deviation from the assumed mean, or by using standard deviation method, that is standard deviation of x, standard deviation of y, and uh, correlation coefficient r. So like this, you have four different methods here. So if I want to find out a regression equation by using regression coefficient, then any of the four methods I can use it here. So let us solve this by algebraic method. It's called a least square method. So in least square method, we'll be finding what is y on x or x on y. So let us take the first one, x on y. So x on y, the equation will be given as x is equal to a plus by. Here x is called dependent variable and y is called independent variable. Similarly, if it is on y on x, then the equation will be equal to will be like this: y is equal to a plus bx. So here y is called dependent variable, x is called independent variable. So based on this, so these values of this equation you have to estimate. What are that one? Sigma x is equal to na plus b sigma y. Sigma xy is equal to a sigma y plus b sigma y square. Similarly, you have to estimate sigma y is equal to na plus b sigma x. Sigma xy is equal to a sigma x plus b sigma x square. So if you estimate these values, so both the regression equations you can find out here. That is y on x and x on y. Now let us take an example and I will explain how to find out two regression equations, that is y on x and x on y, using the method of least square. So there are two values are given here for two variables x and y. So x is going to have values 3, 2, 7, 4, 8. Y is going to have a value 6, 1, 8, 5, 9. So these values are taken here. So based on x and y, we have to find out xy, x square and y square values. So based on this, find out sigma x, sigma y, sigma xy, sigma x square and sigma y square. Now you can see sigma x is 24, sigma y is 29, sigma xy is 168, sigma x square is equal to 142 and sigma y square is equal to 207. So all the sigma values you have to find out. So once you find out sigma values, then you have to substitute in these formulas. Now, so let us take the first equation, sigma y is equal to na plus b sigma x, sigma xy is equal to a sigma x plus b sigma x square. So substitute these values, you will be getting two linear equations. You can see here you will be getting two linear equations. So how to solve a linear equation? So you have to make any one variable equal. So you can multiply the equation 1 by 12 and second equation by 5. So this is what the values you will be getting here. So by solving these equations 3 and 4, we'll be getting a value and b value. So a value is equal to 0.66, b is equal to 1.07. So this is how we estimate a value as well as the b value. By putting the value of x and y, you will be getting what is called regression equation of y on x. So what is the regression equation of y on x? So regression equation of y on x will be this value. How did we get a? This has been already solved in the previous thing. So you can see here a is equal to 0.66, b is equal to 1.07. So same value we have to substitute here, and this equation y is equal to 0.66 plus 1.07x is called regression equation of y on x. Then the next one is finding x on y. So x on y, we have to use these two equation formulas. What is that one? Sigma x is equal to na plus b sigma y. Sigma xy is equal to a sigma y plus b sigma y square. Substitute the values here, sigma values. You will be getting two equation. Then equate this equation. So how to equate this one? Multiply the first equation by 29, second equation by 5. Then this values becomes equal. Then you will be getting a and b value. So a is equal to 0.49 and b is equal to 0.79. I mean, sorry, 0.74. So x on y will be x is equal to 0.49 plus 0.74 y. So this is very easiest method of finding the y on x and x on y. Please remember, in regression chapter will be basically will be trying to find out y on x and x on y equations. So next one is deviation taken from the arithmetic mean or the actual mean. So if you're taking deviation from the actual mean or arithmetic mean, then you have to use this formula. What is the formula? So y on x and x on y is given here. X on y is equal to x minus x bar is equal to bxy into y minus y bar, and y on x is equal to y minus y bar is equal to byx into x minus x bar, and regression coefficient pxy and byx. So bxy is equal to sigma xy divided by sigma y square, and byx is equal to sigma xy divided by sigma x square. So this is what we have to estimate here. So these things we have to calculate here. So from the previous data, that is from the previous the problem. So if I want to calculate the regression equation by using the arithmetic mean, then same thing I can do here. But only thing I have to calculate the x bar and y bar. So what is x bar? X bar is nothing but the mean of x. So x bar is equal to sigma x divided by n. Y bar is nothing but sigma y divided by n. So in that way we can find out. So remember this one, x bar is equal to sigma x. So to calculate the mean, sum of the numbers divided by count of the numbers, right? Similarly, we have to find out y bar. So that is how you get the x bar and y bar values. So that you have to substitute here. Then you will be getting x values like this: minus 1.8, minus 2.8, 2.2, minus 0.8, and 3.2. So total will be 0. Similarly, y total also will be 0. That is sigma small x is equal to 0, sigma small y is equal to 0. And based upon that, sigma small x square you have to calculate. That comes to 26.8. Sigma small y square comes to 38.8. Sigma small xy comes to 28.8. Then we have to substitute in this formula. So remember this formula. So if x on y is given in arithmetic mean, then we have to use this both. Then if it is y on x, we have to use this both these formulas. So this is x y on x. This is this is x on y. This is y on x. So x on y is this formula, and y on x is this formula. So substitute this one, you'll be getting x is equal to 0.74y plus 0.49. Similarly, y is equal to 1.07x plus 0.66. So same way we can find out the y on x and x on y. So here you can see x is equal to 0.49 plus 0.74y. So in this method also we'll be getting the same answer. X is equal to 0.74y plus 0.49. So the next method is called assumed mean method. Assumed mean is where you assume some value for mean. So in this, first we have to calculate actual mean. Based on actual mean, you can use the assume mean. So here you have to use two formulas are there. So this is one formula, x on y, y on x. But here, in case of assumed mean method, we'll be finding what is called the regression coefficient of x on y, that is bxy, and regression coefficient of y on x, that is vyx. So these two values will be calculating. This is called assumed mean method. So bxy is given by this formula, byx is given by this formula. So remember that any of the three methods, that is least square method, actual mean or assumed mean, if you're using, or if you're using standard deviation method, the value will be the same, but how you calculate is going to differ. So this is how the assumed mean method is calculated. So let us take this data from the data given in previous problem. Calculate regression equation by using 7 as the assumed mean for x series and 6 as the assumed mean for y series. So assumed mean means we'll be assuming some value. That is x minus 7 and y minus 6 will be calculating. So this is what the values you're getting. Sigma dx, that is deviation taken from the assumed mean of x, that is called sigma dx is equal to minus 11, sigma dy is equal to minus 1. So deviation taken from the assumed mean of y, that is sigma dy is equal to minus 1. Then sigma dx into dy. So this also you have to calculate. Sigma dx square and sigma dy square. So dx square is equal to 51, dy square is equal to 39, and sigma dx into dy. So these values you have to calculate. Then you have to substitute here. So you know that mean value. So that is what I was telling. So how to find out mean? Mean will be finding by this. So first you have to solve this. Okay, you will be getting 4.8 for x bar and 5.8 for y bar. So these values you have to substitute in the previous problem. I mean the previous thing. So this is the previous thing. So this is how you get 7. This is how you get 6. Then based on this, so based on this, you have to take a deviation. So here the deviation is taken from 4.8. Here deviation for y is taken from 5.8. So based on this, you have to calculate sigma xy, sigma yx. So sigma xy is given by this formula. So we know that this formula is here. So you have to substitute these values. So you will be getting bxy is equal to 0.74. Similarly, for x on y, if I want to calculate, so then substitute these values here. So x minus x bar is equal to bxy into y minus y bar. So x bar is 4.8 and bxy just now we calculated is 0.74 into y minus y bar. So y bar we already know it is 5.8. So y bar is 5.8, x bar is 4.8. So this is what we have calculated. X bar, y bar. X bar is 4.8, y bar is 5.8. So 5.8 here, 4.8 here. So x minus x bar will be x minus 4.8 is equal to bxy is, we just calculated 0.74 into y minus y bar is nothing but y minus 5.8. Substitute this and this is how you get the regression equation of x on y. So x is equal to 0.74y plus 0.49. Similarly, y on x. So once again, we'll be using this regression coefficient formula byx. You have to calculate like this. So by substituting these values, yx is getting as 1.07. Substitute on y on x. So y minus y bar is equal to byx into x minus x bar. So y bar is 5.8, x bar is 4.8, byx is equal to 1.07. So when you substitute, you will be getting y as 1.07x plus 0.66. It can be observed here the regression equations, that is y on x and x on y, are same as those obtained by least square method or arithmetic mean method. So three methods were used. Least square method, the same answer you're getting. The actual mean method, you also were getting the same the values, and assumed mean method also we are getting the same values. So methods are different, but the answer will be the same. So students can select any one of these three methods to calculate y on x and x on y regression equation values. Now, next one is some problems related to the standard deviation thing again. So you may get a question like this: obtain two regression equations from the following. So x series values are given here, y series values are given here. So the mean of x is 20, mean of y is equal to 25. Variance is given here 4 and 9. Coefficient of correlation, that is r, is equal to given as 0.75. So what you mean by variance? Variance is nothing but the square root of standard deviation. Square root of standard deviation. So the regression equation of x on y is given as, so this is the formula. If I want to calculate x on y, y on x, by using the standard deviation method. This is called standard deviation method. The first one is least square, then actual mean method, then deviation from the assumed mean. The fourth method is called on standard deviation method. So here standard deviation of x and y, we have to find out. How to find out standard deviation? So standard deviation is called sigma. Sigma is nothing but the square root of variance, or v. So variance. So what is the variance here? 4. So what is the standard deviation of x? So what is sigma x? So sigma x will be square root of 4, and sigma y will be square root of 9. So this will be 2 and this will be 3. So this is the relation between standard deviation and variance. So if you take the square root of variance, you will be getting a standard deviation. So that is how sigma x and sigma y we are getting as 2 and 3 here. And r is given here 0.75, and you have to substitute, you will be getting direct answer as x on y is equal to, x is equal to 0.50y plus 7.5. Similarly, y on x, once again you have to take standard deviation here, 2 and 3. So here it will be r is equal to sigma y divided by sigma x. So therefore it is 0.75 into 3 by 2. So that if you substitute, you'll be getting y is equal to 1.125x plus 2.5. So this is method. This method is actually called as standard deviation method. Standard deviation with correlation coefficient method. So first one is least square method. Second one is actual mean method or arithmetic mean method. The third one is the deviation taken from the assumed mean. And the fourth one is the standard deviation with correlation coefficient values method. So similarly, we have one more problem here. So x bar is equal to 65 given here, y bar is equal to 67, sigma x is 25, sigma y is equal to 3.5, r is equal to 0.8. Obtain two regression lines, that is x on y and y on x, and estimate what will be the value of x when y is equal to 70, estimate y when x is equal to 58. So that you have to find out. Same way, we will be finding the regression equation here. You can see the regression equation we have found out here. So similarly, we'll be finding regression equation of x on y. It is just a repetition of the previous problem, but you have to substitute the values here. So when x is equal to 58, what is y we have to find out. And similarly, when y is equal to 70, what is x we have to find out. In x on y, so x becomes dependent, y becomes independent. So therefore here we have to substitute the value of y, that is 70. So when y is equal to 70, x will be 82.14. Similarly, when x is equal to 58, so here we have to use y on x. So x value we are substituting here. So what is that x value we given here? 58. So 58 we are taking here and we'll be getting the answer of 66.216. So 66.216 is what we are getting here. And 82.14 is what we are getting here. So obtain two regression equations. Well, there's one more problem here. By taking deviation from actual mean. So actual mean is asked here. So actual mean you can use here. Normally in any question paper, so the methods will not be asked. So generally they'll be asking you to calculate y on x on y. But any of the method you can use it there in such case. But specifically if they ask you to calculate by using actual mean method, then actual mean method only you have to use it here. So we have x here, you have y here. So actual mean means you have to take the deviation from the mean value. So mean value will be equal to sigma x divided by n. So we'll be getting 6 here, and sigma y will be equal to, I'm sorry, y bar is equal to sigma y divided by n, that is equal to 8. So substitute this mean values, that is x bar is equal to 6, y bar is equal to 8. Then you will be getting all the sigma values. So put this into this equation. So you will be getting the answer. So this is y on x, this is x on y. So the problem what you're seeing here is y on x. So the previous one is x on y. So like this, we can find out the answers. So we can work out these problems. So you are given the following information about the advertisement and sales of company. So mean values are given here 10 and 90. Variance is given 9 and 16. Coefficient correlation is given here. Calculate two regression equation line, that is y on x and x on y. You have to calculate. So what will be the likely sales when advertisement expenses are 15 lakh? And what will be the advertisement expenses if the company obtains a sales target of 190 lakhs? So here variance is given here. So variance you have to calculate into standard deviation. So regression equation of x on y, as I told earlier, we can use this one. So standard deviations are already given. I'm sorry, standard deviation is not given. Variance is given here. So you have to take the square root of these values. So you can take the square root of 9 is 3, square root of 16 is 4, and that is how we get this 3 and 4 here. And based on that substitution, we'll be getting x on y equation. Similarly, y on x is this particular formula. So this is x on y, this is y on x. So once again, substitute the standard deviation value. Standard deviation of x and y is given here. So these values you have to substitute here. So once again, variance, we can convert it into standard deviation. So variance of 9 and variance of 60 is given here. So to convert variance into standard deviation, you have to take the square root of 9 and square root of 16. So this becomes 3 and 4. So that is how we are used here. So based on this, you will be getting a regression equation of y on x. So this one. So when advertisement expense is 15 lakh, that is advertisement expenses is taken as x. So advertisement is x here. So x is equal to advertisement. So y is equal to sales. So here in this first case, x is substituted to find out y. In second thing, y is substituted to find out x. So let us take the first one. Advertisement expenses is given 15 lakh to substitute in this y equation. That is this equation. So this equation you will be getting 95.33. So similarly, um, when sales data is given, that also you can find out. So these sort of problems you may get for 2 marks when two regression coefficients, to compute the two regression coefficients when R is equal to, that is correlation coefficient is equal to 0.8, sigma x, that is standard deviation of x is 5, standard deviation of y is equal to 7. Then you have to remember this formula. So this is the formula which establishes relationship between regression coefficient of x on y with the standard deviation and correlation coefficient. So remember this formula, bxy is equal to r into sigma x divided by sigma y, byx is equal to r into sigma y divided by sigma x. So just you have to substitute these values, you will be getting 0.57 and 1.12. Similarly, one more problem here, calculate two regression coefficient when r is equal to minus 0.99, sigma x is given as 10, sigma y is given as 12. So once again substitute here in these formulas, you'll be getting minus 0.825 and minus 1.188. So these are some of the practice questions, you can use it. So question number 1, question number 2 given here. So the screen, question number 3 is also given here. So ints are given here, which formula you can use here. Question number 4. So how to use the least square method. Problem is given here. So int is given here. So this is a deviation from the assumed mean. Question number 5, calculate regression equation of y on x and x on y. So answers are given here. So you can practice these questions. And as we already seen the problems related to arithmetic mean, standard deviation, coefficient correlation. That is x bar, y bar, standard deviation at sigma x, sigma y, r is equal to 0.7. These values are given. How to estimate this one? These practice questions you can practice here. So it's available in any of the statistics textbook. If you go through the chapter of regression, you can find these problems here. So thank you very much. I hope that you understood the concept of regression.